eyes open. Hal Roach was Pretty Boy Floyd. You'll see the distinct resemblance. I'll show you some more evidence later. I believe I have Al Capone, but I need a little bit more work on him, and I don't have it for this one. But this is Pretty Boy Floyd, and you can see even here more of a resemblance, him kind of baby looking face. I should have looked for baby face Nelson while I was at it. You say, well, he's got this round face and this is flat. Again, lens distortion. They use a different lens, gives a flat appearance, maybe a different distance, nice rounded look to it, better quality photograph. But I'll show you later that we're dealing with the same people. Moor Studios, photographs, explains who these people are. I think I was able to identify one of these people in the photograph. It's blurry, but this guy stood out. He's a monster of a man. He's tall. Respectfully, he's not the nicest looking person, but frankly, I guess none of them are looking that great in this blurry photo. He's from the Bonnie and Clyde shooting hoax. I think he has to deal with where Bonnie and Clyde were finally shot, but this looks like the same guy. I think he plays a sheriff. I wish I'd gotten a little more information, found this at the last minute. The guy's name is Fred Hearn here. I don't remember his name in the hoax. So if Pete Arthey is Clyde Barrow, then where is Bonnie Parker? She should also be at Moor Studios. And she is. And turns out to be the most interesting person I've looked at. Okay, so we're doing Bonnie Parker, and find Bonnie Parker of Bonnie and Clyde. I put up two nice pictures of Bonnie, and I think it becomes pretty apparent, especially when you consider Bonnie Parker was only 4'10", and here we have Jean Tiny Evans-Smith, aka Bonnie Parker. Now she's aged a little bit here. It's got to be at least 10, 15 years. So she's looking a little bit older, but you can see the basic resemblance. And we'll pull up another photograph, by the way. That's the woman who played Ava Braun. And here's a very, very nice photo, Bonnie Parker. And here's Jean Tiny Evans-Smith, who worked at Moor Studios. And you can see the remarkable resemblance between the two of them. There's also going to be some scarring here on the neck on both of them, and we'll see some other issues. Now, we always look for the smoking gun, something that we can really nail down the person as being somebody else. So certainly there is great resemblance, and it doesn't hurt that they're both very, very small people. But there's some very remarkable things about Jean Tiny Evans-Smith, and you'll see it makes her identical to Bonnie Parker. So let's look at the hands and the arm on Jean Tiny Evans-Smith, and we'll blow it up once more. So if you want to take your time, hit the pause button and see if you can find any problems with her. When I first saw this, I mean, I saw some issues over here and some stuff over here, and I thought maybe she had rheumatoid arthritis, but it turned out to be much, much worse than this. So we separate the two hands to study them individually, and this did take me weeks to finally piece it all together. You have different color hands here. This is lighter, this is darker. She has a sleeve for some reason on the left hand, which is a little unusual. Maybe some buttons on the sleeve, but there's no sleeve on this arm. I mean, why is that? Why not just wear a long sleeve shirt? And we'll start with the right hand. And if you look at an x-ray of the hand, these are metacarpals. They're inside the hand. And this is the proximal phalanx. These are the phalanges, and they're the first ones. And then you have a middle one over here, and then the distal one. The distal ones are the tips of the fingers. And you can see, you don't see the middle or the distal phalanges here. There's no look at them. These these parts here don't seem to be there. You just can't see them. Maybe they're curled under. And here there's some significant scarring in the proximal phalanges. It'll be these two things over here. Thumb looks a little peculiar, but all right. Here, in fact, you don't see much of anything. I mean, this just kind of looks ridiculously scarred. I'm not sure I can see anything there. And if we go to the left hand, it gets even more peculiar, if that's possible. So here you have a pincer grip. I mean, it's really bizarre. You don't see any of the fingers here. She's got a sleeve, and this looks like a wrench. It's like a mechanical contraption at the end of her hand, and it is. She has a prosthetic hand, and this is a clamp, and I'm guessing it's spring-loaded. She probably operates it with the other hand, as badly damaged as it is. She's able to use this for gripping on and holding things, but this is mechanical, and I suspect that she either has to pull these back or there's some other mechanism to hold it in place, but I suspect it's spring-loaded, and this is the basic mechanism. This is a prosthetic hand. Here's a couple more images of prosthesis. This is a really new one. I guess it's almost virtually bionic. And here's a very old one, but the same pincer grip here. That's really the key, is it's a pincer grip. This is an impossible position to put a thumb and forefinger in, and there's a fulcrum here, something in between to hold the two sides in place to use it as a pincer. And here's somebody who lost both arms and would wear a contraption like that. So, the question is, I mean, does Bonnie Parker have a hand missing and a damaged right hand? I mean, how's that possible? The woman's in all these pictures. She's holding shotguns up to this one. She's robbing banks. Is it possible we missed this? Well, yeah, it's possible. One, people look at photos carefully, but not that carefully. Here's Gary Berghoff. I watched MASH for 7 seasons. He was on it for 7 seasons. I saw the movie, and I don't think anybody really knew that he had congenital deformity of his left 3 middle fingers. So you can see them over here, these tiny little nubs of fingers. This one, harder to see. And over here, you can see them in there. This finger he has, I don't know why it's under the football like this, but here's probably the best picture of these tiny little deformed fingers. And he managed to hide it through all the filming pretty well. So we have to study the pictures of Bonnie Parker, because if my theory is correct, that Jean Tiny Evan Smith is Bonnie Parker, and Tiny Jean Evan Smith has problems with her hands, then Bonnie Parker should. And she does. So here's a photograph of Bonnie Parker. Can't see the left hand, but the keys are being held in a very peculiar fashion. She's got this hand wrapped around something here. I mean, is there a belt? The keys are hooked in maybe to the belt. And if they're keys at all, I don't know, but I thought they were keys. Maybe they're not. Maybe it's just her hand going into the fabric. I don't, as a matter of fact, I don't think they're keys. But these fingers are really excessively long. You take a look at those, and she's got them in there. There's a problem with it, but they're not these mangled up, gnarled things here, unless maybe this is it at the end. But there's something very peculiar here, and they're hiding it. You don't see the left hand. And here it gets more peculiar. So she's holding a revolver with her right hand. Let's take a look at it. And she's got this finger outside the trigger grip. You can see it over here. But the finger's peculiar. It's straight. There's no differentiation on it. And here are the other fingers. And it looks like you still can't see the distal portions of the phalanxes. And it may be that they just added on either a prosthetic or changed the picture or did something here, but you cannot see these distal portions. This finger is way too straight, and I'm thinking they used some form of prosthetic. Here's the left hand. It's even worse, if that's possible. Here's the pinky separating off the rest of the hand with this bizarre fingernail at the end of these two fingers, and this finger pointing like this. I mean, just a bizarre looking hand. The thumb maybe in the back. You can't tell. I can't tell. And here there's a ridge over here. If you take a look, you can see it over here. So they may have added this after the fact, maybe a prosthetic. Maybe when they got the photograph, they covered it up with someone else's hand, cut it pieces of paper. I can't tell you. All I can tell you is it is an extremely bizarre hand, and we are looking for problems with the hands. So I had this slide earlier before I figured this out. It's the only other picture of Gene Tiny Evansmith I have. Here's Kurt Siedemack. By the way, I think this guy's from the Bonnie and Clyde shooting as well. I have him in an earlier picture, but I wasn't 100% sure. But here's the picture I have here of Bonnie Parker, and I was comparing the two of them, but we blow it up. And again, left hand, very bizarre. Left hand would be where the prosthetic is. I mean, this finger is more than peculiar, and here's that crazy pinky. This would be the pinky. The thumb you can't see so well. And then these fingers also. This is not a human hand. It is bizarre. This hand approximates something sort of reasonable, but examine it yourself. I think it's also peculiar.